What's what's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Doe Show. It's your boy Dame D, and I am back with another one. Let me check my audio and video to make sure I can be heard, man. I just want to come in and talk real quick. We have the audio engineer who broke down the Nolan Well situation when they were on the boat. She's live. She were on Willie D. I think they're getting ready to end it, but I'm going to replay it. Therefore we can get her part of what's going on with her life and how they're trying to discredit this young woman, and pretty much how they're trying to have us think that we did not hear what we heard on this videotape. And that's what's bothering me. That's why I'm going to keep talking about it, because they're trying to discredit her. They're trying to undermine the work that this young woman done, and they're trying to make us think that we didn't hear what we fucking heard. With this video alone, this should be able to, convict everyone who was on this damn. But let me my audio. All right, it look like we're good, but yeah, I got a video. I'm gonna bring it on stage. They may be getting ready to end it. I'm gonna play it, and then we'll get back to commentary.
Like I said, in security for the most part. I've been telling people, I never did any of this for no type of monetary gain, nor was I thinking all of this was going to come from it. This was actually, go ahead.
No, you finish it.
No, I was going to say this was actually suggested by supporters saying that, they want to support. They know how people are. They see the hate. They see the threats. They see what we're going through. They see the doxing and things like that. And so they were saying, y'all need to go ahead and try to obtain legal counsel, because this is not fair, and we want to support in any way that we can. And
and I'm glad that they did suggest that, because let me tell you something. We got to get used to the idea that nothing is free. Not even activism. Freedom ain't even free, right? Freedom is not free. Peace is not free. You got to pay for that. And we got to get used to it, because the uncivilized must understand. It don't matter it don't matter what they do. They're going to find an audience who is going to immediately support them. I don't care how diabolical they are. It don't matter if they're dead to the left. They're going to find an audience of people who are going to go out there and raise 100,000, $500,000, $1 million for them, because they understand that they have a particular agenda. And as long as somebody is supporting that agenda, then they're going to support them. So if our people are supporting a particular agenda that keeps us safe or protects us, or paints us in a positive light, if our people are under attack, we have to understand that we're under attack. If it happened to them, it could happen to us. When our people fight back, we need to make sure that we help fund their legal defenses, because they're going to always come for Black when you fight back. So we got to get used to that notion, be on automatic, on code, automatic, on code. And we got it. We got it. It ain't got, everybody got $5. Everybody got got a high five. Everybody got a high five. Everybody got a high five, high 10. Yeah, we got it. We got it. We just got to get used to, looking out for each other. Because we
I agree. We have to, and what he said is we have to be able to back each other, situations, because they're trying to discredit this young woman. They're coming after her.
When I heard that audio was cleaned up, I went straight to it. And when I saw it was a sister, I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then when
okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop. I just
break it down, and
we'll probably come back and talk about this a little later. I just want to come in and
because I understand. I use logic.
Let me pause this and stop and come out. But yeah, you know, so what's going on is he brought the young woman in. He's been speaking to this young woman, you know, because she's been getting a lot of flack about this situation, you know, especially from the family of a lot of those young men and women that was on that boat. You know, they're trying to discredit her. You know, what they're trying to do is the mainstream media has even, you know, come out with their own with some of the original video and trying to say that was the video, you know, that they're going with. And now, you know, they're trying to discredit her. They're trying to say that, you know, she didn't basically like she's trying to, you know, use this against these young men and women, or trying to attack them without any legal, you know, ramification behind her, I should say. You know, but the only thing is what she's talking about now is, you know, she did not break this tape down. She just wanted to hear, you know, what was going on that boat. She did not intend for, you know, this to put anyone in criminal harm or anything like that, you know, but, you know, let the cars fall where they need to fall at is what she was saying too. You know, she sat up there and broke that down. You know, like she said, any audio engineer or any audio analyst would have been able to do the same thing that she did, you know, and like she said, she don't understand why she's being attacked. Let me turn my comments on. She's been attacked. She was the first one that went in there and broke this down, and like she said, they had the capabilities, better equipment to be able to do what she did. Only thing she just did is went in there, what she does every day at work. She said she went in there, undistorted a lot of the you know, a lot of the noise distortion that we heard. And then once she did that, she was able to, you know, just do a few other things, and you were able to hear clearly what was going on that you couldn't hear, you know, with the naked ear, you know. So now she's being attacked for doing that, you know, and now she's on live on Willie D, and she just spoke about, you know, how a lot of the she's getting ready to be on Nancy Grace. But yeah, man, this is what's going on. They're trying to make us think that we didn't hear what the fuck we heard on that tape. This young woman, she just said it. She talked about that she did not intend for this to you know, be a legal ramification to get everybody in trouble that was on that boat. She broke this down. What up, though, James Sanders? She went and did this so she can hear, so that we can hear, you know, everything that was going on that boat. And she did that, you know, and what happened was we were able to hear what Nolan's so-called friends was doing on that boat. You know, and the family is now trying to sue everyone who's talking about this situation. They're trying to, you know, pretty much hush up everybody. The family, you know, the friends has even raised a GoFundMe to try to, you know, go after everyone who's talking about this situation, you know. So, you know, but at the end of the day, man, this young woman, she was the first one to be able to go on here, break this tape down. Like she said the FBI and all these other the crime examiners, you know, I mean, the forensic examiners, audio examiners, they have better equipment to be able to do what she did. She just went in there with regular equipment and broke this shit down. You know, what up, though, to everybody out there? Shakir Savage, what's good, y'all? You know, just talking about this audio examiner. She was just live on Willie D. She's been getting attacked, you know, by the mainstream media. You know, these so-called friends of Nolan Wells has been going after this young woman. She's starting to go for me. So, you know, and Willie D talked about that. And I want to say fair use for that video. You know, I was just showing a live video of the young woman talking about, you know, because she's been getting attacked, you know, for, you know, just doing for doing the Nolan Wells family a favor, you know, because without that audio and video, man, we would still be guessing, you know, what the fuck happened to this young man. She broke it down. These friends are responsible, you know, allegedly, you know, and I'm gonna say allegedly, you know, but these friends know what the fuck happened to this young man, you know, and they're trying to cover it up. You know, now they're trying to sue and go after everyone who's talking about that, you know. But we're going to continue, you know, talking about this case. We're going to continue keeping it alive. This young man, see, and this is what they're failing to realize or failing to forget. You know, this young man is dead. You know what I mean? He went on that island with a group of friends to celebrate the 4th of July and did not come back alive. And this is what they're trying to make us forget. You know, now they're trying to, you know, bring up all this stuff about the family is getting death threats, but fuck that family. This young man lost his life. What about Nolan Wells' mom and dad? They're getting death threats too. So they're trying to make us forget about what's really been going on. And what's really going on is this young man's life was taken. It's been a cover up from the beginning, that this case has started. You know what I mean? So, and I want to give another shout out to everybody, to all the, people who've talked about this case, who's kept it alive, and to the people who still talking about it, because what's going on and at Plot J's AVH said, I have a theory on what happened. Give me your therapy. I want to, we would love to hear everybody's thoughts, theory on what happened, man, because this young man was, in my opinion, he was murdered. You can hear clearly on the tape that we're talking about that the young lady broke down. You can hear them saying that, let's do chest compressions. And someone said, we've already done that yet. So clearly something happened where they saw this young man be unresponsive. They tried to bring him back by doing chest compressions to this young man. And if it was an accidental drowning, why not just call in the beginning and try to get this young man help? They did everything in trying to cover this up, and they even spoke about trying to cover this stuff up. And and the young forensic lady who was just live on Willie D, she talked about that. She was like, damn, they're actually talking about trying to cover this shit up. And that was one of the reasons why she put it up. But yes, at Pilot J, I would love to hear your theory on what happened. Give us your thoughts, give your opinion. I'll even bring you up here live if you want to come on here and talk about it. She said, Dame D, what up, though? Do you know what blockchain is? I don't. Not offhand, I don't. But enlighten me on that. But yeah, man, that they're trying to discredit this young woman. They're trying to make it seem like she edited and she added shit to this video that, and like she said, it's not her who put the video out. If you want to go out and attack anybody about this video, go out and attack the rescuers who were who these guys originally called to get rescued. They the ones who put this video out. So they're trying to attack this young woman. And I just want to come on here real quick. I wasn't even prepared to come on here. I still got my, my wife beater on. And I just saw this and I just want to come on here, man, because what's really going on is now the family of Bart, I believe, they're putting out, they're the ones who's gotten lawyers, who's trying to go after everyone who's talking about this situation, who's mentioning, these young men and women who was on that boat, the so-called friends of Nolan. Now they're all lawyered up. They're trying to go after everybody on social media who's talking about that. So basically what they want us to do is let them sweep this shit up under the rug. Let them handle this. They don't need our help. They want to be able to cover up this murder without us investigating it, because the investigators, and I'm not going to say they're not doing their job, maybe behind behind the scenes, they're doing their job, and they're getting ready to indict each and every one of these young men and women, because we hear what the fuck happened on that boat. Like I said, they're trying to discredit this young woman. We have to stay behind her. We have to do everything we need to do. And they spoke about that to be able to stay behind our people, that's trying to help this family get justice for this young man, because this young man could have been anybody's son, brother, a family member, and you got a group of white boys and women that's trying to cover this up, and they have the state of Mississippi behind them 100%. So we have to do any and everything we have to do to be able to continue to talk about this, to continue to keep this in the mainstream media, because they're trying to scare everybody off, but the fake friends of Nolan, yeah, they're definitely fake friends, James. And look, I need for each of you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are now less than 30 subscribers away from that 1K mark. So I definitely need for everybody to hit that subscribe button. It's definitely going to help your boy out. We are closing down on 1K. So please hit that subscribe button. It helps your boy. It helps the content like this get out. So therefore, it helps the family of Nolan Ryan. Therefore, everybody will be able to see this, and everybody will be able to like, comment, subscribe, and share, therefore to be able to get out, and therefore more people will be able to see what's going on to this young man, but yeah, at the end of the day, man, that's what's going on. They're trying to, pretty much discredit everyone who's talking about this case. They're trying to so-called put lawsuits on everyone who's trying to so-called discredit, these so-called friends that was on that boat, and the only thing we're trying to do, man, we're just trying to get the truth. That's it. So, if they want to come after everyone for trying to get the truth, they need to start going after the motherfucking, the detectives, the crime, the motherfucking, the autopsy analyst who fucked up the autopsy report for the family not to be able to get a true autopsy report when they did the second one. So they need to get on their shit, man, because from what we heard from this video, this case, they should have already been indicted. It's like they're trying to cover, they're just trying to waste time. They're thinking that we're going to forget about this shit, allow them to be able to sweep this shit up under the rug. That's what's going on, man. And then as we talk about this case and as we wait to hear, the results of this case, it's still young black men and women, that's disappearing, that's been being found hung from trees throughout this country. This is not the only case that's been going on like this, you guys. So it has been an ongoing situation that we need to continue talking about every single day. And I'm going to continue talking about it, because this young man was, life was taken, and we just want to know how and why. And that's it. So look, we're probably going to come back a little bit later and talk about this case more. I just wanted to come in real quick because, like I said, the analyst who originally broke this, and she broke this case wide open, and that's what a lot of people is upset. Like, this it took this black woman to be able to come on here and break this case wide open, and like she said, they got better equipment, better technology than she got to be able to hear a lot of this shit more clear than what she did. They're just not doing that because they know once they do that, everything that this family, everything that these friends is trying to cover up, will be brought to the light. And that's what's going on. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, they're trying to discredit this woman. They've been coming after her. So we have to stand behind her. We have to, keep this case alive by continue to talk about, things and issues like this when it goes on to this case. So look, like I said, I'm probably going to come back later and do more talking. I was not prepared, but once I saw that she was live and she was doing some talking, I wanted to, come on and show you guys that she was live and talk a little bit more about that, because like I said, they've been discrediting it. Tried to discredit this woman. They tried to say that she edited this shit and was adding shit, and just trying to, kind of frame these so-called friends. And she came on and spoke her piece and spoke her truth and said the only thing she did was what she do everything on her job. She just cleaned it up, took out the distortion that we heard from them being on the boat, and all the air and all that noise and shit like that. And we were able to hear it, so that's what's going on. I'm gonna read a comment. James Sanders said she heard something disturbing because she won't change history. Yeah, I mean her story, I should say. Sorry about that. Yes, and that's exactly what she said. She said she heard some disturbing shit from these so-called friends that they were trying to cover this situation up, and they're pretty much, they know what happened to this young man. And I'm not even going to say that they murdered him. They know what happened to him. More than likely everybody on that boat know exactly what happened to him, and somebody on that boat was responsible for this young man not being here today. And that's what's going on. So look, I definitely need for you guys to hit that subscribe button. We are, like I said, less than 30 subscribers away from 1K, and that's a goal that we are trying to reach. We've been trying to hit that goal for a couple of years now, and we are there. So I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We're going to continue talking about this story a little later on. I just want to come in for a little bit and talk about this because I saw that she was live and fair use. We used that video. That was a video of Willie D. He was live talking to the black young lady, to the voice analyst, forensic engineer, I should say, who broke down the phone call from when these so-called friends were sinking off that boat. But look, I'm not gonna hold you guys up long. I'm getting ready to get something to eat. I need to eat, put something on my stomach, and actually put some clothes on. I saw that video and I just wanted to come on here live and show you guys that and I just want to give you guys a little bit of information coming from the horse's mouth. So look, I'm not gonna hold you guys up. It's another one. It's your boy Dame D. And hit that subscribe button. We are closing down on 1K. It's your boy, and I am out. Peace. Have a good day.